Hello everybody, welcome to my video. I will be discussing about my textures. So this is one of the grass textures I made for the Aether pack. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about the golden ratio. So that's sort of what this video is about. And so yeah, here it is. So if we remove this one, put it right here, and remove this, put it right here, we can see that this is about 3, right? And so just with 2 of them switch the places, but it's 3. 3 blocks basically filled with only 2 locations changed, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But that leaves us with another 3 blocks right here and 2 blocks. Now, if this size was 8, then we'd have something more like concrete right here. Concrete, I think. Let me see, line. So here's concrete. So we have an 8x8 texture. We have 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom. And I actually call this a 3 to 5 ratio because it's basically the same as the golden ratio, except it's simplified because obviously pixels are smaller. But this is basically one of the ways you can use the golden ratio. Now, this is good and all. However, when we're dealing with even lower textures, we have even more to consider. And so now we have this thing where I sort of, instead of just making it flat, I actually changed it up a little bit. And this is a lot of, not really a lot, but it's a very simple change that sort of changes the entire identity of the texture. But if I went through the work process without doing it and I just did something like even this looks better just with that extra bit, but if I didn't, it would look sort of something like this. Maybe there'd be a lighter texture right here to show that it's sort of changing or something. But we have it like this because, again, it's a little bit interesting to be imperfect and, so yeah, so we have 3 right here, we have another 3 right here, and then we have a 2, and the reason why we have a 2 is, again, the same thing. This is 5, this is 2, and 2 times 1.6, which is the rounded golden ratio, is 32. If you actually type it on a calculator, yes, 2 times 1.6 is 3.2. And so that's sort of, is it on? Yep, there we go. So that's sort of the interesting thing one of the interesting things I wanted to show. But I'm actually not done. So you can further do this by changing this and this to that, this to this, and this to this. And the reason why I didn't leave a space like this, why I didn't leave this color like right here, is because of a little something called anti-aliasing. I know some people say aliasing. I think it's aliasing. I'm not sure. But essentially, anti-aliasing is when you sort of have a line, right? That's too small of an image. So you sort of have a line, and as you can see, they sort of fade off into the other color. Now in pixel art, a lot of pixel artists, a lot of artists don't want to have the perfect anti-aliasing like this. We want to have a little bit, and this is sort of how we draw the line and how we make the colors very simple, is that we don't want something like this. I mean, this does look good, but we don't want something like this because there's so many colors in here and there's so much to look at. And the sort of idea of pixel art is to keep those colors down a bit. Even something like this, even with the select number of colors, can look really crowded if you overdo the anti-aliasing, especially with patterns. However, look at something like this, and this is only 3 colors. You zoom out a bit, and it actually tells you a lot more. Especially if you play Minecraft, you'll know that a little bit of color can make a whole lot of difference. And I mean, you don't even need to play Minecraft to know that. You can be just a general pixel artist, or even just an artist in some cases, and you'll know that you only need a few colors to make something real. There is one thing I wanted to show, and that's a bit difficult because it was in here somewhere. I don't know if it was an image or something. Crap. I lost it. Fuck. Was it in the blocks? It's in color map, not color map. Entity. No. I just lost it. That's great. Okay, but yeah, as I was saying, yeah, it's, you don't want to be, like, too anti-aliased because, you know. Oh, here's what I wanted to show. Get out of this, get out of this, get out of this. Glazing, not grime. Is it grime? Oh, here it is, right here. Perfect, awesome. So this is, up close, it's really hard to sort of understand it. But if you zoom out a bit, you'll actually start to see that it will, it'll start to show, you know? It's hard to explain. It'll start to merge together and blur out a little bit, so then you'll actually see how great the texture looks. So like this right here, as I was saying, up close it doesn't look very defined, but if you zoom out a bit, you'll actually see that it is a little bit defined on the edges. And that's because there's a lack of darkness on the edges. So if I started to add more color and remove even more darkness from the lighter sides, and add more darkness and less light from the darker side, to the darker sides, then it would be, again, more and more defined. And if I further emphasized, you know, stuff like this, you'll start to see that it's a lot more defined. Obviously, I don't want to do that, so don't save. This is just a bunch of junk right here. I don't know, I just made all this. So yeah, also another thing, silhouette, it doesn't really work in this case, because I mean this is Minecraft textures, but as you can see here's a bunch of examples of silhouettes right here from games I was just randomly playing. This one obviously is like the same method as this one, which is using contrast in black and white to create this image. And this is the same thing as well. As you can see, the top of the bodies, like with the clothes, you want to make the clothes brighter than the bottom because, well, depending on what you're doing. This game, it really doesn't matter, but in games like TF2, they make the bulk because their bodies, the top part is more expressive of what they're trying to go for. With the characters, that they would bulken them up in certain specific ways, and they would lower the colors from their leggings and heighten the colors from their torsos, and then against a background they would be improved. Now in Blood and Iron they have a little problem called grass and also very bright stuff, but it's sort of like a realistic game, so it's I guess it nullifies it in a way. I don't think so, but actually, one second. So I'm gonna switch to Studio real quick, because Studio is gonna be really fun. I'm gonna show you something really incredible. Give me a minute, let me load it up. Not that, window capture. Alright, so we're in the studio. So I actually changed this game recently. I know some of you might know the game. So here is just with color, and here is without. So without color, you can clearly make out a lot of things. You can make out the walls, you can make out the vents, you can make out the lights, even though they're really bright. The ceilings, everything's really bright, but you can still make out the things like the tables, the brick layout, the glass, the sides with the corners. It's not completely, it's grayscaled, but it's still, the idea is still there. But let's further this with, let me get this right here, copy. So you can copy, put this back into Paint.net, and let me switch back to Paint.net real quick. Right after, alright, and let's go Paint.net, right there. So now we're back in this one, and all we have to do is go here, go to brightness and contrast, and we should turn the contrast a little bit less. No, I don't think that makes a difference. So obviously, this is where it wants to sort of be. I'm going to make it a little less brighter so that it can still sort of be seen. There we go. So I think that's the degree I want to put it. So obviously, things further, we're going to be darker. The lighting obviously shows. I'm going to do that real quick. But yeah, things are going to be darker in the back because there's less light back there. But this is sort of the idea of the contrast. So you can see, like, over here, it's not going to be perfect. It's not a perfect method, but over here you can clearly see the distinctions between the bottom of the wall and the top. And if you look in really close, and you start to, so we know that top is right here, the bottom is right here. So let's get an assumption and take this real quick. Let's make a new file, and this right here, we're gonna shrink this down a little bit, just a little bit. Sure. We have seen that take a little bit of this, so that'll be like that. 8 by 9. Is that it? Is that 9 right there? Is that the y-axis? Yeah, it's 9. So So 9 times 1.6 is equal to 14. We take this part, and the reason why I'm including this little sliver is because you just would move it down, you know. So that's why I'm sort of including it. It's 14. So we got pretty close. It's actually more up here. But yeah, here it is. It says 14 or so, and this isn't perfect, but it is near where it's supposed to be. And if we check. Yeah, so we're still a little bit off, but we're definitely sort of close to that ratio, and especially with right here, and of course this bottom part. If we included that, you'd see it is sort of the golden ratio, especially if you include this bottom part. And that's again another useful thing to use in your builds. Is, you know, the golden ratio, because golden ratio is always cool. Where was I going? Roblox, there we go. So I'm going to show you around and give you some grayscale looks. For example, the zombie right here, it actually looked a lot brighter, like the background. I changed that, obviously. The player, I changed the pants so it wouldn't look like the arms. You go around here, you can definitely like make out that some parts are different from others. This is visually easy to see. So yeah, and if we can even crank the contrast up a bit, let's do 2, 4, 8, that might just hurt. 1, 4, and this is 0.4. Let's turn the brightness down a bit so it's not too hard on the eyes. So this is extremely contrast, extremely grayscale, and you can still see this is the bottom floor, this is the top floor. It's got yeah, and so this is again top floor. This room is really dark, and you can definitely see even without this on that this room is just terrible with the lighting. It is not as easy on the eyes as something like out here, where it's definitely a lot more unique. And this is how most developers should start looking at their games, is they should have is what I call the map design correction tool. I think you can see that right here, and I would always enable this in game to sort of see which parts are dark, which parts are light, which parts are people going to be looking at, because when you go in the game, you can play with this map correction tool on, and you can play it like this and see where people are going to be looking. Now obviously I have a force field, so I'm going to wait for it to go away. But as you can see right here, you can look around, and player can walk in a game, go over to here. It's very dark back here, so obviously this will be, so it's really good to use value, because let's say over here, you don't want the player to go over here, right? Because this is sort of like an area which eventually ends off. So if you make a certain area a little bit darker, it's not going to be as populated with the player as, you know, places like lighter areas. For some reason these seats are dark. I don't know why that is. I'm going to turn the lighting off. Okay, that's really weird. Sese seats are just randomly dark. I guess there's just an overflow of light. Yeah, and so obviously the doors are sort of dark, except this part. And this part, and this is sort of the distinguish which parts open and close. It's an identifier for where the door is and how it's facing and how it closes and where it closes from and which side you're on. So that's really good. These alarm things, they have a black round base against them, and then they obviously have the inside and the flashy thing. It's a lot harder to look, but they are sort of like a lighting, so they're not supposed to be perfect, but even with the lighting, the inside is light, the outside is outlined, because it's easier to see it that way. Now there's some problems. I mean, take for example the stairs and the roots for up here. They do get a little bit terrible. But even then, with the concrete, and the concrete's really good, and is why a lot of people use the concrete, is because it's very great with the lighting, it's very great with the value, and as you can see here, it has that sort of rough gradient that everybody just subconsciously likes. And you go over here, and obviously dark over there because it's closed off room, and you're not meant to explore any further. However, it is a bit intriguing until you get there. This was just a joke. This is just a joke. Don't ever do. So this is one of the things I wanted to explain. Back then I did make a video on beveled bricks and stuff, and I regret that video a little bit because of how artistically broken it was. Don't take a half and another half and you know, push it down the middle and do the lighting like that. The lighting is going to be absolutely terrible, and that door turned out to be one of the worst, basically anything that was made. You walk here. I guess we'll go to the restroom to see them. Okay, so obviously you see where the mirrors are. The mirrors are very, you know, the sinks. The sink is there's the water. There's the outlines between the sinks, so you know which sink you're at. There's obviously the sink head and all of that. Go over to here, and there's the button that you're just not supposed to press. I don't know. It's just something in there. It's a secret room. And these are the stalls, obviously. They probably should be a lighter color, but I think they're all the same colors. But I think that the middle of the color should be light. But you can obviously see right here, this is sort of like a not a button, but like a doorknob-ish thing. So if somebody walks in here, they'll immediately know, like, these are something you just pull or something like that. I don't know. They're doors. They would know it. It's compact and simple, and it's a basic shape. And unlike this room, which is just disgusting. And the fire hydrant is really good, as you can see. Just the model alone, if you perfectly do it, you can actually make it possible. Let's increase the contrast a little bit, so much so that it is very, very hard to see. And I know you're going to be looking at this, and I'm going to turn this on, and you're just going to go black out and die, and I don't know. It is very difficult turning this on. But yeah, I can still see very basic. This side again, not this side, not this side. But yeah, you can see the difference between the wall. It's very basic. It's very obvious. Even at extreme high contrast video, it is very obvious what is going on. And So let's turn this back down a little bit, and even more back down, and that's pretty much it. So let's see, what will happen if I, so now I can mess with colors. This is fun. Alright, so that was basically it for today's video. It was kind of weird. I know a lot of people didn't understand what I was trying to get at, but what I'm trying to get at is have good value, have think about the golden ratio. Don't always use it. It's not a thing you should always use. It's just a guideline. And if you're creating a game on Roblox or a map specifically, try and create a map design correction tool, because even though that's what I call it, it's not what it is. Try to make a grayscale tool so you can actually see what part is in the game that is differing, that is design-wise, what you want players to pay attention to, and be very specific on where you put the lighting, because I know a lot of games just throw lighting on the floor, throw lighting in the ceiling, and expect it to just work. It doesn't always work. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all probably in another video. Yeah, bye.